Oh my goodness.
Hey, Clay. Hey,
Howdy. I don't have a mask.
mask. I don't know what you're talking about, man. I am just in my new form. This is
It's not even your final form.
who, I always thought I need to be I wanted to be younger. I wanted to be, the best of myself. And
Yeah.
apparently the best of myself is part cat and
That's the best part of all of us, though.
accessories. I'm not sure if I don't think it's going to work out, to be honest with you. People are giving me weird looks on the street. It's not like
Is this your coming out as a furry? Because I accept you for whatever you identify as.
I mean, if I was actually in costume, yeah. I mean, but no, I'm not a furry. This is absolutely, and I've been trying this new substance. Now, I can't really advertise it.
But make sure the label stays turned around. We don't want any.
Yeah.
issues.
So, but this is not a very popular product. I had to go underground to secure it. It was offered to me by some weird person on the phone, but I took it, and here I am. And you know what?
I think they call that Hillock Moisture is the name of the. It's not a very catchy name.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's working.
I don't think so either. I mean, I'm fine with it, but this is your own person.
I mean, I'm jumpy now. I'm jumping at things, and I don't even know where this hat came from. It's just like it just popped out. Let me go and do like a swap here.
Okay.
And then once I come back, I'll be in my old decrepit regular body.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll be right back, man.
All right. Take the activator. Take the activator. Don't forget the activator. I just backsplashed on myself. Well, there's the guy I know.
I had better eyesight too when I was in that other body.
Could almost see in the dark.
Yeah, it was really cool.
It has its benefits, though.
Yeah.
Rhymes with icking lay your ass.
I'm going to do that later once I switch out again. I need to go prowl the streets at night. Guys, welcome.
Welcome, y'all.
Another episode of Cinematic Suffering, and this time we're talking about
the substance. It's what's on the lips of most horror fanatics right now. The writer director Coralie Fargeat has really done something special for us. 2024 has been an absolute gift for us horror fans, and I'm quite grateful for it.
Yeah. What a pleasure. What a triumph. I remember seeing the advertisements for the substance come across in vague feeds, I should say, and like Instagram and maybe sometimes in Facebook. I would see the substance, and it didn't really say anything other than, what if you, what's the catch line? What if you could ever dream of having a better version of yourself?
Yeah. What if you could create a better version of yourself, just younger, sexier?
And I was like, well, that looks like Demi Moore. That's really cool. So I was just kind of anxiously kind of awaiting it because I didn't know too much about the movie. What about you? What was your first little?
It got on my radar because a lot of what kind of finds its way to me on YouTube and Facebook is in the horror genre. And this movie had a lot of early buzz. I kept hearing about how bananas it was and how hard it went. And I was like, okay, I started to get a little bit more interested in it. And then some of the early reviews started to trickle in, and they started to come in from, content creators that I respect, not the shills, not the people that you can tell are like, okay, these are the horror fans. This is part of the tribe, and they were raving about it. So I couldn't wait to see it. I just feel like, non sequitur, this is probably going to become spoilery pretty quick. Fair warning. Sure. I can't talk about this movie without even accidentally getting into spoilers. So if you want to see it without anything being ruined, make sure that you come back to this podcast later. Give it a thumbs up first. go watch the movie and then come back and we'll all discuss it. But
Yeah.
it's been out for a minute. You know, the real horror aficionados have seen it already. So we're here to discuss these.
We're here to dive into its guts per se.
It's squishy, malleable guts.
Squishy, malleable guts. So The Substance so far has on an IMDb an 8 out of 10. Now on IMDb, that's really good.
Okay.
People are really harsh on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes is at a 90%
that's
critic score.
Unheard of.
Yeah, and then Metacritic is at a 77%, so that's kind of average for Metacritic. I don't even know where to start. Let's start maybe with the director, Coralie
Fargeat.
Fargeat. Is that how you pronounce it?
It is, yeah. I
Okay.
looked that up. I looked at a couple interviews with her. I have never seen Revenge. This is The Substance is her sophomore film, which is just insane to me that it was. This is somebody that's just meant to helm films. It was just so good.
Let me talk briefly about Revenge, man.
Okay.
This is a movie you have to see. I mean, I think it's on Shudder. I mean, just dig it up. It is a revenge film, obviously.
Yeah.
But it is full of blood. I mean, if you want blood, there's about as much blood in Revenge as there is in The Substance.
So, okay. I'm sold.
And it goes over the top. It's a wonderful, gritty, bloody movie, and you definitely need to see it. So once I found out that she was the same director of this, I was about to lose my mind because I was like, oh my God, it makes sense. It totally makes sense.
So now that's awesome. You know, I went in with pretty high expectations just based off of a lot of the critical reviews I'd been hearing. I wanted to go in without spoilers. That's why I gave such a, heavy-handed spoiler warning in the beginning, is because as soon as people started creeping into spoiler territory, I just, no, I don't want to listen to it, because I wanted to go in without any, without too many preconceptions. And when people say it goes bananas at the end, it is gonzo by the end. I mean, and I said to my partner before we went to see it, is like, I hope so much that we have walkouts during this movie, because it's such a childish, infantile thing with me, but I love going to a horror movie and seeing people walk out. It was people walked out during Evil Dead Rise to the sound of my laughter. I just can't help it. It might as well have been a friggin' Jerry Lewis comedy back in his heyday or something. I was just bent over laughing at the ridiculousness of it. And it was the same thing towards the third act of this movie.
Yeah.
It went so off the rails in a great way.
So that's when you told me that, and then the same experience happened to me in my showing, that 3 people walked out in that third act, that I was just laughing. I was doing like the trucker move. I
was doing as people were leaving, it's so rude. I was like, yeah, away with you, neophyte.
So and then like near the end, it's so bonkers. Like near the end, there's people that were groaning behind me. There's maybe about 15 people in the theater by this point, and there's several people behind me that were groaning, oh my God, oh, this is ridiculous. I mean, by the end, everyone was just either into it or not into it by the end of the film. And, when the lights came up, the people that were against it were like, well, that's 2.5 hours I'm never going to get back. And that's probably the worst movie I've seen ever. And then another couple was like, well, I think it's the best fucking thing I've ever seen. So,
and I'm getting ready to throw hands with you.
I thought there wasn't like a real meanness, but everyone was just kind of laughing, and not really arguing. So it was a nice little camaraderie in there. You could tell there's horror fans, and then there's like casual horror fans that were in there. So the hardcore ones, we loved it. The casual ones thought it was a waste of time.
I mean, it baffles the mind that people, in my mind, that people don't know anything about the movie that they're getting ready to go see. Like I do enough research to know that. How can you not know that movies like Evil Dead Rise and The Substance are not going to be for you? All it takes is just one review. Just watch one review and you'll be like, oh no, I don't think that this is going to be for me. It's going to make me poop my precious little Pampers. I don't want to watch this.
And the thing is, everything was so over the top. Though, if you took any of it seriously, just the way the movie was filmed, it was just hyper realistic. It was it was not meant to, it was more of a take on society and culture, and it wasn't supposed to be this harsh reality like some documentary or anything. It was an
No, it
over the
was.
top gore film pretty much.
It really was, and everything was filmed through this almost fisheye lens. It was one step away from the corners of the lens being distorted. It was the camera work was so kind of through the rabbit hole. You felt like you were in some kind of almost a hallucinatory experience watching this thing with the colors, the set designs, the way that people were acting was just a little bit just amplified. It just
was
none of it felt like the real. It was a reflection of the real world, but it was a carnival mirror reflection of the real world.
That's a perfect way of putting it. It was a carnival reflection of the real world. It was so souped up, and the exaggerate, especially Dennis Quaid, who played Harvey.
He was great.
Who was amazing. Apparently, that part was supposed to be played by Ray Liotta, but he passed away before they could finish the part. So I think they recast it, or he didn't record anything just yet, but they just had to recast it anyways, and then Dennis Quaid got the part.
Ray died, rest in peace, Ray. My brother and I had an ongoing joke about Ray Liotta's towards the end of his career. Bless his heart, he was doing any and every role, and we made a joke that said, you think there's going to be a hard Ray in this movie? Meaning, is he going to pop a blood vessel? Are we going to see that blood vessel in his head pop? And I couldn't help but think about like Ray Liotta as I was watching that role and thinking that he would have been great in it, but
he would have been great.
Damn, Dennis Quaid was good in it.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I could totally see Ray Liotta doing the same over the top bits and everything. But yeah, Dennis Quaid just ruled it. His, I mean, even the sound design was. I mean, I talk the soundtrack, the sound design, and the cinematography. I mean, everything was perfection to me. There were parts in the sound design where you're just utterly just grossed out, and I think you know what part I'm really talking about. And it involves a lot of shrimp.
Oh yeah, it was like for all of the insane over the top gore effects and stuff that you get by the end, Dennis Quaid's character gobbling down shrimp with just this macro focus. And he's dipping it in some saucy stuff that looks like 5,000 calories a mouthful or something. She's just eating like a ravenous animal while he's telling Demi Moore's character that she's washed up. And it's just, it was so great. Like it could have, in the hands of a lesser storyteller, it could have been this big, like, see how evil men are to us, see how like what they've done to us. But I didn't get that at all from it, because I don't know, maybe I just empathized with the character, and I was really bought into what the movie was doing and where it was going. It was if Coralie Fargeat is not a fan of like Stuart Gordon and Brian Usna and especially Guar, by the end of the movie, it's a Guar concert, like just through and through. I'll eat my hat. That she has to at least be aware of these creators.
Yeah. She is. If she hasn't before, she definitely does now, because it's just the style was just over the top and great. So speaking of Demi Moore, I haven't been keeping up with Demi Moore. I'm not sure if she's done anything recently. I've always been a fan of her. I thought she was a great actor. But this was, it almost felt autobiographical in a way. Because I don't know how old Demi Moore is, but she's older.
She's in her 60s.
Yeah, so she's not being looked at like she was when she was younger. And I felt, it's just how people look, not just Hollywood. I mean, I think Hollywood is a big part of it, but how people in society look on women, especially as they age. It's how people think, oh, she hasn't aged gracefully, has she? But look at him; he's hotter now than he was when he was in his 20s, and he's 60. And it's this weird reverse dynamic of beauty standards, and we may have seen that in movies before that were a little more subtle about it, but this was like very in your face about And then I always thought about the dream of a better version of yourself, the
Yeah.
tagline for the movie. And to me, when I went into the movie, I thought it would be a younger version of themselves,
Yeah.
not particularly a better version. I was like, oh, it's just going to be who she was maybe in her 20s.
Right.
And I don't think that was the case. I think it was the person that was being born was what they thought would be a better version of themselves, not necessarily the younger self. Is that?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And what's been interesting for me about this movie, well, going back to what you said about, like the almost autobiographical quality of it, what a ballsy move for Demi Moore to do this, because it's so on the nose. I mean, she's somebody that's she's probably had a little bit of surgery done, and she's an actor that we all remember. Striptease, G.I. Jane, we remember the sexuality of the characters that she's portrayed, and like, wow, she looks great. She's in her 50s. Wow, she looks great for somebody that's in her 50s. That was always kind of part of the conversation around Demi Moore. And she still looks phenomenal, especially beautiful for somebody.
Woman,
and she looked fantastic. And but there's only so much exercising, there's only so much plastic surgery that you can do. Time is going to get you, and the camera goes right in on those parts, like all the things that that she would feel, you would assume that she'd feel kind of self-conscious about, as both her character and as a person, is just right there on display. And I thought it was a really just a ballsy role for her to do. And I'm so grateful for her for having done the role, because as the movie goes on, she's just got to be slathered in makeup, and this whole, the story evolves in the way that it's going to go. And it's just, she's such a trooper for doing that.
Yeah, she was absolutely amazing. And I haven't read any interviews yet, or read any kind of like backlog or background or trivia that, but I'd like to assume that Coralie had some part to play in that, to make her feel, maybe they had this great kinship or spirit that, first of all, it's a woman director. And I don't know if a man could have pulled this off as successfully as Coralie did. Just the way it focuses on Demi's shortcomings as she's growing older, and the ball, like you said, I say the balls, but the ovaries it took to really expose herself like
whatever.
that.
Yeah. It was wild. I'm sure that that had to have some kind of component in it, because in the few interviews that I've listened to, Coralie Fargeat said that it was a very personal movie. It's kind of a violent expression of how people treat themselves with these kind of beauty standards, and how they and what they kind of this stress and this violence that they heap on themselves. And Demi Moore's character was great in it. It kind of really makes you it's I feel this kind of weird, kind of mixed feelings about it, because on one hand I have a lot of contempt for Hollywood, but then on the other hand, the film does a good job of putting you in the mindset of her character. Like, her entire sense of self is deteriorating. Not only is she fading, succumbing to old age like we all will, her career is done, and she's just not seen as the same relevant sex symbol that she used to. And when your whole personality and self-identity is just so wrapped up in how you look, and that's got to be kind of tough.
Yeah, and I think they really portrayed that very well at the very beginning. That opening credit scene, where we see the creation of the star, what we assume to be on Hollywood Boulevard. We don't know where it is. You don't know what time period it is. You don't know if this is way back when or this is now. It's you don't get that sense, but from the freshness of the star, we see a brief glance of Elizabeth Sparkle, just kind of an overhead shot of her standing on her star, getting her picture taken. And then as the years progress, how the star just kind of, people are looking at the star, amazed at it, and then just eventually forget about Elizabeth. And you see people just walking over the star. The star gets cracks in it from age, wear and tear, foot traffic, food, and shit is just falls on it. And eventually it just gets to this point where, and then it just kind of jumps into where we see Elizabeth Sparkle doing this aerobic kind of workout.
Jane Fonda,
Jane Fonda kind of workout.
kind of thing. Yeah.
And so that was a beautiful like lead up to where we were at the current period. So we didn't have to know what everything that she did all in that little span of a couple of minutes. We knew everything we needed to know about Elizabeth Sparkle.
Right. I agree. And it was, and it's such
Elizabeth. By the way, Elizabeth Sparkle is Demi Moore's character. I don't know if I said that. So.
Oh yeah, it like it sounds like an adult actress. No, it was Demi Moore's character in it. But I just love the movie. It was like you said, it was kind of, you saw people using cell phones, but it was aesthetically right in the 80s. But at the same time, they didn't seem to try real hard to kind of make it a period piece. It was, the film took liberties, and it worked because the whole thing was this kind of dreamlike reflection of society and of reality. And it could have so easily gotten pretentious and been preachy and condescending, but it wasn't. It was a very, it was a very personal film. And I love the way it set up the mythology. It's kind of like, harkens back to movies like Gremlins or any other kind of horror movie where there's set rules. It's like, this is the stuff. The substance itself was like, okay, if she's got to be somewhat of a Stuart Gordon fan, because that's Reanimator fluid in that syringe. It's the same color and everything.
Yeah, and I remember. I mean, of course, you have to take some, take some periods of disbelief, because you have to acknowledge that this is a horror movie, but at the same time, it's a fantasy. It's not based in any kind of reality. So we can't say, as later in the film, as we see the effects of overstaying your welcome in one body, the other body retrogrades and deteriorates. And this is jumping forward a bit, but we see Demi Moore in this decrepit old probably past death body, just still rocking and rolling, dragging people around. And there's people in the theater going, oh, she couldn't do that, she's too old. I was like, she can't have a body bursting out of her back either, but it happened.
Oh, it's from the very get-go. I mean, like, as soon as she takes this stuff, this secondary body, this young hot woman kind of erupts out of her back, and you get this weird duality to where they call it the Matrix body. I think it's like the Demi Moore
avatar or whatever.
Yeah, it's like sitting there with her spine all open, this big vaginal wound up her back. And they sew it up, and she's fine though. There's no way. I mean, it's like at what point in the movie, the thing we're talking about, people walking out, people walked out in the last like 20, 30 minutes. Not even that, like it was right at the finale of the movie. People were marching out. And I was like, at what point in the movie were you so offended that you had to leave? What do you think you're here for?
What was everything before this wasn't ridiculous, but now this last 20 minutes, 15 minutes is ridiculous. It's like, it's a fantasy. You just
when it literally turns into a Guar concert, I was like, I turned to Carrie. I was like, this is Guar. It's Guar. Like, this is what you go to see when you go to see Guar. It's a Guar monster. It's spewing the same just appropriate amount of Guar.
It's like, just put her on a sprinkler and just turn her around, or like a top or whatever. It was really funny.
I imagine Coralie Fargeat told more blood, more blood. How you say more blood?
So let's mention the younger self, or the better version of Demi Moore is played by Margaret Qualley, who is Sue in the film.
Yeah, she's just simply Sue, who's great in it. They cast the perfect person to be this kind of she represents everything that's kind of contemptible about young pretty people in a way. She encapsulates just selfish. So it's selfish to the point to where she's destroying her other half of herself so that she can have a little bit more time in this younger body, which the film should have just been called Plastic Surgery. It's the most on the nose, indictment of plastic surgery culture that I've ever seen.
Yeah. And this was another actor Margaret Qualley, who her mother is Andy McDowell, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Margaret, she put herself out there too. I mean,
Oh
if
yeah.
Demi Moore's doing it, then yeah, this younger version is definitely putting herself out there. So there's a lot of nudity, which I did not mind at all. But
No, it was
it, and
it needed it in a way.
it needed it, and it was just like you're not like you talked about the vaginal opening in her and Demi Moore's back. It's you're not going to be born with clothes on. You're not going to have your kid with your pants on. It's all very bare to the world, and that's what was so great about it. And that there was I don't think there was any punches pulled or anything with that.
No, and it's almost like they needed to have it, like when the younger version, when Sue is doing her version of Demi Moore's exercise routine, the camera doesn't flinch away. It's right in there in people's butt cracks, and it's very much as much of an outward examination of the human body as it is an inward one, because like as she overstays her welcome, which results in her leeching off of the Demi Moore character, that body just gets more and more and more grotesque. And it's this weird, it's like this inner ugliness kind of is manifested in something that we can most definitely see and experience out in the real world.
And I always, it got me thinking. It got you thinking, because as much as it was over top and it was bloody as hell, that I was thinking to myself, they're the same person. And I think the substance, the voice on the phone said, there is no we, there is only I. So what he was saying was that, when you're in your younger body, that's you in your younger body. And there's a set of rules. You have to go back after 7 days, and that's for a specific reason, to have the body juices and everything to reform. But they have a whole thing set up where you have to maintain and do all these rules, and if you don't follow the rules, as we've seen in other horror movies, I think of Talk to Me as one of those. If you don't follow the rules, then shit's gonna go bonkers, and that's pretty much what happens when she's in her,
most definitely.
And when she's in her younger body, she loves it so much that going back to the older body, it must feel like, I don't know. I can't even, I was trying to imagine what it would feel like if I could go into a younger version of myself and play around and be 20 years older than I am now, 30 years older, and I wouldn't want to come back to this body either. I mean, even for 7 days, I'm like, fuck, dude.
This is going to make me sound like the biggest loser on earth, but probably in my case, the only thing that would happen is that I would just, be just self-abusing to 4 times more and just be that much more frustrated by my own lonely unfuckability. But, we all had different paths in life, but that's exactly where I kind of went with it too, is it makes you ask that question. And I thought that it was such a brilliant kind of, on the nose, almost obvious in a way, but still really artful and brilliant thing that like the one has to leech from the other in order to feel this way, which, and the mirror of that to reality is you see it in so many people that are just like cutting on their face, doing this elective surgery to make themselves look younger, but they just turn themselves into people that are hard to look at. Like they're, I don't necessarily want to name names, but there's some celebrities out there that are just painful to look at now. Like, why would you do that? Like, we all have to, it's your face, but we have to see it. And it's the same weird kind of dysmorphia kind of, played out in a way that is very kind of cartoonish and over the top by the end, but that's exactly where the film needed to go. It's why it's kind of, people are selling themselves short by getting so offended and walking out of it. I love it. Again, I'll never stop talking about it.
I loved it too, and I don't know. I'm not in other people's head as they're watching this movie, but to me, it was a deeper thought process. It was a deeper movie than just the outward qualities than what they were seeing. Yeah, I mean, even when I see celebrities, and most of them are female celebrities that do get these procedures done, the Botox, and I can't judge them for what they do, because they're trying to maintain the look of when they were in their prime, and that's what people want. That's what they think people want. That's what Hollywood tells them that they need to do, and it just winds up making them caricatures of who they were. But you rarely see that in men actors because again, everyone thinks men age more gracefully. But you can see Dennis Quaid has had some work too.
Oh, well, I mean, like Mickey Rourke has managed to turn himself into a living mummy. And I'm sure that you see it in Hollywood a lot, regardless of, of gender, but it is one of those things where society is very hypocritical, even in 2024, when everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people want to kind of tout how progressive and how much they're pushing against that. It's still out there. It's like it's still and in an odd kind of way, that's the thing that I love about a lot of classic horror movies, is that they can have their cake and eat it too. They can condemn the very thing that they're exploiting to get asses in seats. Like a good example is I Spit on Your Grave movies. It's just like, oh, look at this. Isn't this an awful? Isn't this awful? But it's also titillating. That, and that's why it's in the movie. It's this kind of have your cake and eat it too scenario.
Yeah. I think it's also, especially The Substance, kind of got my mind jogging about immortality and the quest for eternal youth, and how we're all kind of seeking that, right? And I feel, as I push 50, and I see myself aging, and I see that I can't do the things I did 10 years ago, 5 years ago even, and I'm looking for that magic pill, that procedure that can halt that process. Just pause time just for a little bit. Just let me squeeze a little more life out of this one that I have. And you can see that in this movie. You can see it in other movies too, when it deals with this kind of subject. And
I would almost, wouldn't it be friggin' awesome if they did, if they just gave it, like, if they with Coralie Fargeat's blessing, kind of let a sequel be made from the male perspective, because for us it's all like Viagra and virility and like a testosterone treatments and stuff like that. I think that's where the kind of the male insecurity comes in, is our worthiness is so wrapped up in our virility and our and so when that starts to wane, we're kind of like left with this sense of self that's diminished too.
That's another little hypocritical thing too in movies too, Clay. That's a good point. What it would be great to see, like a sequel regarding to the guy who introduced Demi Moore to The Substance. So there was a story there that we only saw glimpses of, which is really cool. It added so much layer to the story that it would be great to see that maybe in another movie, what his perspective. And
it was Demi Moore's nurse who was kind of like giving her an examination specifically to see if she was going to be a good candidate for The Substance, and he was one of these shockingly beautiful men.
He's modeled.
And as an old man, he was looking rough. So it was
I was
a lot to think about.
I was mentioning hypocrisy there only because men's bodies and women's bodies are treated differently in the movies too. In this movie, it's easier for, I think, a general audience to look at a woman's body, and I think that's been like that for ages, since the cinema first came out, that you're going to see more nude women on screen than you are going to see men's genitalia. So I wonder how a movie like that would come across, because if they're going to show all they did in this one, they need to show it all in a sequel, should there be one, or something like that.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I'm just saying, when you see movies and you see male genitalia in the movies, it feels like, even me watching, like I know I have the parts, but seeing it on screen is like, okay, I don't.
I mean, it's like, we don't need this. I didn't realize it was one of these kind of movies.
They could have written this out of the script, and it would have had any been practical. But it's.
It's a good point, and it kind of, I mean, it's one of the things. There's so many things to love about this movie. Any kind of movie where the more the days pass after you've watched it, and the more you think about it, and the more smarter it feels, and the deeper it feels. That's kind of validates the worth of a movie to me. If The Substance had been all about like, we're going to shock the audience, this is going to be about it, we're just going to go as hard as possible, and it's not to make it all about gender, but if it had been, like if this had been kind of like most male horror directors probably would have gone that way with it, or they wouldn't have been able to approach the material with the same empathy. It wouldn't have been as compelling, because the whole lead up and the whole the introduction to the characters and bringing you into their world and bringing you into their insecurities is why it was compelling. It's the gore and all that stuff is a fun kind of,
it's a fine reaction or result. No, I agree totally. The empathy that Coralie puts into this from a female perspective is just amazing to watch. I other little aspects that I really loved about the movie, it's definitively divided into 3 chapters. Elizabeth, Sue, and then the final chapter, Monster Sue, is when we get fucking crazy. We haven't been really spoiling the movie right now. I mean, I feel we've been like touching on some major points of it. We can still go along with it, but the Monster Sue, everything that led up to that point was just so insane that it felt like the natural progression of where it needed to go. And at that point is when the people started walking out of the theater, I think, is well, I mean, not necessarily Monster Sue. When we started getting a glimpse of, when we get that first glimpse of her in the mirror, I just started clapping. I was just
I was going like,
I was like, yes, this is fucking amazing. Meanwhile, people behind me were groaning. Oh, it started off so good.
Fuck off, man, you fucking pussy. It's like, and I kind of hate to be like that in a way, because I realize that, I know a lot of people that are just as revolted as that by horror movies, and their revulsion is because, like, I don't know. I wanted to say that it's because you're a nice person, but it's also, it's like you're a weakling, man. I mean, it's like you face your fear, face the ugliness in the world. You get the privilege to see some real art, and real art is gonna be horrible and ugly. It's like, like I've met a lot of people that want to just almost verbally attack me when they find out that I'm a big fan of Guar. Like, I'm just, they suck. They're, it's like, you don't, like, art is not pretty. It's not, it shouldn't be, it should walk people out of the theater. It should attack your sensibilities, and it should eat the sacred cow right in front of you. It's not, otherwise it's all just poetry that your grandma would like, birds in flight and that kind of nonsense. Fuck that.
Yeah. And that's why I thought that I think this is a true auteur piece from Coralie. I think I mean, Revenge was a great movie, don't get me wrong, but
I'll watch it tonight, probably.
Yeah. But this is an auteur piece. This is up there with, this, I'd say, some of the greats, from Hitchcock to, whoever, from the beginnings of Carpenter. It's like it's a truly artistic masterpiece, and I'm not just tweeting it. We're not paid by anyone to say that. We certainly don't know any of the filmmakers involved with the film. It just struck me on so many levels, and not only just revulsion and pure aesthetic quality and reaction to it, but to have you really think about the human condition and the duality that is in yourself between good and evil, and is there a good and evil? That you don't know. I mean, it's all just such a mishmash gray area, and I think it's portrayed very well in this.
It was brilliant. I can't wait to eventually own it on Blu-ray and watch it again. I can't wait to see what Miss Fargeat comes out with next. You know, yeah, it was really something special between that and you know, like I really liked Alien Romulus, but I loved The Substance. The Substance went hard. Like one thing I wanted to mention real quick is that if you're not really into horror, like you haven't, you know, there's a lot of younger fans that are just now getting into horror. If you want to see some companion movies to this, check out some of the stuff that's inspired it. Like Society's a good one.
Yeah.
Slither is another good one. Basket Case. There's a lot of really great, you know, this didn't come from nothing. There's other stuff out there that were kind of the seeds of inspiration for this, at least visually and creatively.
Yeah, I think parallels to the movie. I've brought up Infinity Pool.
Okay.
Obviously, different film, different ideas, but you know, the idea of that duality. Who is real? Are you real? You know, is that's what we saw in The Substance, where you know they were calling each other. You know, she's ruining the apartment. The young person would be like, the young version would be like, she's ruining the apartment. She's a pig, and then. And then the voice in the phone would be like, there is no she, there's only you.
It's only you. And the other one would be like, she's spending too much time in her body and it's ruining mine. It's like, you know, that's I can't remember the line, but it was just like, that was another thing. It was just this disembodied voice on the phone. You never get this really, they don't even give you an inkling of why this stuff exists or what the you know, what the reason for it is. And I think that benefits it. I don't need to know that stuff. It kind of keeps the mystery alive. But
yeah, this is one of those movies where I did not, you know, so there's some horror movies where I need to know. Well, Terrifier is one of those.
Yeah.
I always bring it up. But it's one of those things where those movies I need to know because it's such a simplistic premise. There is no really, there's no multi-layers in Terrifier. There's only one layer, and so that I could say that for Friday the 13th and all that stuff. There's nothing really multi-layered there. So, but with this movie, you get everything that's handed to you, and you just accept it. There's been a few other movies that we've talked about where we don't mind that kind of world building and world building that you see because it's not spoon fed, but at the same time you can accept it.
It's like you say, there's a big suspension of disbelief, and oh man, we could probably talk about this movie forever. We've gone long, but The Substance, definitely. If you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of body horror and of brilliant social commentary, this is one that you got to keep in your collection.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorite films of this year, probably in a while actually. So this is definitely what I'm getting on Blu-ray. And I'll probably be watching several times over and over. Maybe make it a yearly tradition or something. Yeah,
I can't wait to own it. 2024 has been kind to us horror fans. We've gotten some real gems. So.
For sure. I think that it's like we're seeing a renaissance maybe of the rise of some really great directors and people who have brilliant ideas and brilliant visual eyes and aesthetics.
It's great, you know, in a world where all the mainstream movies are just mucus, like whatever Star Wars is farting out now, and Terminator and all this crap that's just meant to be as derivative and safe as possible. Horror is the one place where you get to see original ideas and you know,
young directors coming out and showing what chops they have and what they can really do. And it's I would think a definite renaissance. So Substance, total hamburgers up, mini hamburgers
absolutely.
Up.
Many multiple disparately aged fingers way up on the Substance.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. This has been Cinematic Suffering. I don't know. We can call this a Bits and Chunks episode. Let's call it that. And
let's do it.
This has been The Substance. I'm Jason.
I'm Clay.
That's Clay. And thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Love y'all. Take care.
Bye.
See ya.